Another issue that's been talked about a lot on the campaign trail by both Democrats and Republicans, abortion. Now, when it comes to your position on abortion and where you stand on any sort of national ban, you've been asked about this a lot, and I've read through a lot of your answers, listened to your interviews, and I just want to clarify, in this post-Dobbs era, do you believe that abortion is an issue that should just be dealt with on a state-by-state basis?
So I'm pro-life. I have a record of being promoting a culture of life in Florida, just like they've done in Iowa, just like they've done in South Carolina. Dobbs returned it to the political branches. I think the reality is that basically means the states are going to have primary control over it. You know, I do think the federal government would have an interest in, say, preventing post-birth abortions or things that are really horrific, but I don't think that there's enough consensus in the country to see a lot of mileage in Congress. So I think what I've said is, you know, if you want to protect life, it's a bottom-up movement. And so let's work with states that have done it, work in your local communities. But you also have to understand, you know, what Iowa's done is not what New Hampshire is going to do. And what Wisconsin will do is not what Texas is going to do.
So would you veto any sort of federal bill that tries to put a nationwide ban in place?
So we will be a pro-life president, and we will support pro-life policies. I would not allow what a lot of the left wants to do, which is to override pro-life protections throughout the country, all the way up really until the moment of birth in some instances, which I think is infanticide.
Well, actually, I got to push back on you on that, because that's a misrepresentation of what's happening. I mean, that 1.3% of abortions happen at 21 weeks or higher. There's no evidence of Democrats pushing for abortions up until...
Their view is that all the way up into that there should not be any legal protections.
There is no indication of Democrats pushing for that.
Well, yes, they are. They've done it in California. They've done it in other states.
They have not instituted that policy.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, they have. They basically will say that, you know, if there's some type of they'll use like different ways to really have a wide exception for it.
It's extremely rare, 1.3%, and in those circumstances, they're typically extremely emotional decisions.
Well, no, I mean, I don't say that that's the norm in terms of this, but I do think that the left in this country has moved on from a position that said, you know what, we do want to discourage abortion, it's not something that's a good thing, to now viewing it more as a positive good for society. And I think most Americans, regardless of how they feel on legal protections, I don't think most Americans think it's a positive good for society. It's obviously a tragic circumstance.
The FDA just approved over-the-counter birth control. Do you support widespread access to contraception, or do you think there should be some limits?
No. Contraception in Florida, our Department of Health, we provide about 100,000 people a year with access to contraception at no cost to them. And I think it should be available over the counter, and I think people should be able to have access to it.
In Florida, you signed a bill that criminalizes any person, quote, who performs or actively participates in the termination of a pregnancy after 6 weeks. In terms of enforcement or limits on abortion, to what extent do you believe that women should be punished for violating an abortion ban?
Not at all. No, I don't think this is an issue about the woman. I think a lot of these women, you know, are in very difficult circumstances. They don't get any support from a lot of the fathers. And a lot of them, the number one reason why women choose to have an abortion is because they're not getting support and they feel abandoned. Now in Florida, we've provided support and we put our money where our mouth is. But at the end of the day, you know, I would not support any penalties on a woman.